I have taken time, I persuaded myself to read the book. And the impression I gathered at the end of the day was that an attempt was made by the retired general to recall events, but perhaps in an attempt to tell a story, he engaged in what I would call a careless distortion of history. Because there are gaps that he was unable to fill at the end of the day. And I think he also might have forgotten that not all the dramatists personnel have passed away. So history has already taken care of the Babangida tenure. Any attempt by him now to rewrite history failed woefully in the book.
So from your own point of view, you don't quite agree with some of the accounts, especially in some of the dated events and some of the events which you personally are involved. And perhaps let's take it one after the other, because if we both are involved in an event, our accounts may be different depending on where the Koboko hits, because the military used Koboko a lot on the civilians at the time. But where the Koboko hits more on you and where it hurts, where in the book did you feel that the account of IBB was distorted?
Many areas of the book. I mean, talking about the annulment of the election, General Babangida claimed that he traveled to Katsina on the 23rd of June 1993, and he was flabbergasted to learn about the annulment. I beg your pardon. No. All programs in the second quarter of the schedule, political transition program schedule, including June 12 election. He also banned the courts, particularly the Court of Appeal, that were then entertaining the case. And the Court of Appeal was going to decide the validity of the ex parte order of Justice FEMI and the ex parte order of Justice Saleh in the face of Section 19 of Decree 25 of 1987, that no court shall inquire into or make any order to stop elections. No interim order, no interlocutory order or final order will be made by any court to stop the conduct of election. So when they discover, when the junta discovered that the Court of Appeal was going to set aside those orders, a decree was enacted by General Babangida on the 22nd of June. So altogether, 5 decrees which justified the annulment. So the announcement of 23rd by Unduka Irabo was anchored on the decrees enacted by him the previous day, justifying the annulment of election. That's number one. Number two, between 23rd of August and 26th, General Babangida promulgated 7 decrees, again to confirm the annulment, to legalize the interim national government, and for the country to move on. He claimed that he was not aware. He was taken aback on the 23rd of June. But on the 26th of June, he made a broadcast, a nationwide broadcast, justifying the annulment and alleging that the election was riddled with corruption, corrupt practices. Even though it appeared to have been fair and free, but the election could not be relied upon. Also on the 22nd of June, he annulled, or rather set aside, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, headed by the late Justice Bola Babalaki, set up by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Chief Justice Mohammed Bello. So how he can turn around to give the impression that some forces, without his knowledge, annul the election. It's not.
Could it be fair to could it be, Mr. Falana, that maybe the man at the very top is not really aware of the machinations of all of the scheming, and a lot of things happened.
The man at the top signed the decree to annul the election. Signed the decree.
Maybe he doesn't know the details of the...
No, to stop Babangida, you know, he was sufficiently intelligent. And he once said, in the face of the crisis, I'm not only in office, I am in power. And he exercised the power against the interests of Nigeria. He also said at that time that they are not the election in the national interest. He never mentioned Abacha. No. And in any case, the annulment you are talking about was perhaps the last stage of the manipulation. Following the criminal annulment of the election, the campaign for democracy organized peaceful protests in many parts of the country. General Babangida ordered that the late Chief Gani Fawehinmi, the late Dr. Bekoram Somkuchi, and myself be arrested and brought to Abuja here, where we were charged before a chief magistrate in Wuse here for the allegations were unlawful assembly, conspiracy, unlawful assembly, and sedition. What was the sedition about? That we had published the results of the election, which he has not published in his book. But at that time, it was a criminal. He made it a criminal offense. Our bail was refused at the instance of the government. Again, the junta thought foolishly that once we were put away, there would be no protest in the country any longer. So we were sent to Kuje prison here. Again, sensing that we might get bail in the High Court, General Babangida ordered that we be detained in addition to the court remand under the State Security Detention of Persons Decree No. 2 of 1984. And so we were detained. Now you said we committed an offense by challenging the annulment of election. 32 years later, you are now saying, oh, I regret that we are not the election. So that means you knew. You deliberately arrested me, detained me, charged me, and paraded me as a criminal only for you to say now, sorry. No, he didn't say sorry. We regret what we did. No apologies. For me, we're taking it beyond the book. A year earlier, because Nigerians must not forget the fact that when General Babangida staged a palace coup on August 27, 1985, I'm talking of when he removed, and his colleague plotted the removal of another military head of state, General Muhammadu Buhari. He said, he criticized the Buhari Idi Agbon-Tanzani's junta for not fixing a terminal date. So he said, we are going to leave office in 1990. In October 1990. 1990 came. He postponed the terminal date to 1992. 1992 came. He changed it to January 1993. January 1993 came. He changed it to August 1993. But what we did in 1992 was to say this postponement had to stop. So we organized protests and published posters. Babangida must go.
IBB must go was very popular on the front pages of them.
Yes.
Was major headlines on
yes
on major newspapers.
Of course, we were arrested in Lagos, brought to Abuja, FCT, and detained in Kuje prison under decree number 2. When the late Chief Gani Femi went to court, Dr. Bekoran Samkuchi, Baba Omojola, an economist, and myself were brought to Kuje prison, 1992. Chief Femi went to court on our behalf. For going to court on our behalf, he too was arrested and made to join us in prison. So I think on the 19th of May, they deceived us in prison that we're going home. So we pack our things. The vehicle that was taking us to the airport purportedly made some maneuver, and we found ourselves at the Gwagwalada Chief Magistrate Court, where we were charged with treasonable felony. Of course, they brought the then announced president to join us. So 5 of us were charged with treasonable felony. Since we had no access to our lawyers, so the late Chief Gani Femi and I decided to defend ourselves and our colleagues. So even though we're asking for bail, we turned our arraignment to the trial of the junta. And I recall on that occasion, Chief Femi told the judge, my chief magistrate, Malam Bulama, that those who should be standing trial for treason, those who should be in this dock, are in the villa, led by General Babangida, because they had sacked, they had overthrown a democratically elected government on December 31st, 1983. So those are the people that should be standing trial. Mr. And of course, no, just a point. When it came to my turn, I made it clear to the judge. This section of the law, Section 41 of the Criminal Code Act, which provides anybody who forms an intention to remove the president of his country during his term of office, otherwise than by constitutional means. I said, my lord, the man calling himself my president has no fixed term of office. So I couldn't have been brought here. Of course, the judge adjourned. 2 weeks later, he granted us bail, very liberal term, 20,000 around one shot thing like so. The regime could not stand another proceeding. They couldn't go back to court. So that we don't turn the thing into a full trial of General Babangida and others. So they simply ran away. and the case was struck out. So I'm going to challenge the malicious prosecution. My malicious prosecution and that of my colleagues.
Is it not time bound? Because,
No.
I mean, so you want to prosecute General Babangida for whatever happened in his time as a military head?
Now, if assemble a team of lawyers, they are looking into it because he has now brought it to life.
What exactly are you bringing?
He has brought it back to life by now admitting that there was no basis for my prosecution because he now says Abiola won the election, which was the basis of our protest. He's also saying, you know, he shouldn't have, you know, postpone the terminal date of his transition program, which again we're fighting. So which means there was no basis for our prosecution. It's malicious. Again, massive infringements of our rights, human rights. Because when you keep me in Kuje prison, you deny me my right to liberty, my freedom of movement. You also violate my right to choose the government of my country, pursuant to Article 13 of the African Charter.
Is the matter not settled bad?
No, it's not settled bad. Because the man who did it has just come out to say, I did it wrongly.
Mr. Falana, there is something that, you said you have...
And again, let me say this. You know, it's not in our court. You can talk of something very started.
Totally bad, yeah.
In the ECOWAS court in Abuja here, in the case of FEMI, FALANA and Republic of Benin and others, the court said any violation after 3 years cannot be pursued here. But later, you know, the improvement of the jurisprudence of the court has now come to the conclusion. I think that was in the case of Federation of Journalists, you know, Gambia, and the government of that country, that once you are talking of serious, gross abuse of human rights, statute of limitation does not apply.